Hello everybody and welcome to another mod video. In today's video we'll be modifying the CR10 Smart to no longer require auto bed leveling in order to function correctly. At the same time we'll be adding insulation beneath the build plate to help speed up the heating process. As always, do this mod at your own risk and I'm in no way responsible if any damages occur. Now in most cases you shouldn't need to go through these types of lengths to get your machine to work correctly. As I'm making this video there's quite a few problems with the CR10 Smart and many users have had to resort to time-consuming mods to rectify the situation. One such issue is the implementation of auto bed leveling, which doesn't seem to function properly for a large number of users. So before we begin, we need a couple of items prior to doing this modification on our machines. The first will be the leveling nuts with either the silicone leveling columns or springs. I've tested both so I can say that either will work for this purpose. Whichever option you choose, make sure that you have the screws to go along with the kit, since the ones which are on the machine are too short. The second item on the list is the cork board that will help us insulate the build plate, and this needs to be approximately 1 inch in thickness to help reduce the need for adhesives. In my case, I've ordered a pack of 12 by 12 inch sheets, which were 3/8 inch in thickness, and this allowed me to stack them on top of each other until I had the correct thickness. With the components at the ready, we can now begin by removing the glass bed from the build surface. You can do this by opening the retainer tie-ups and sliding out the glass. There's 16 screws that are holding the build plate in place, so we'll unscrew those so we can begin prepping the heating platform. Since the existing holes are threaded, we'll first need to open these up to allow the screws to move freely. Using an 11/16 bit, we'll widen the hole size ever so slightly for the 4 corners that will be mounting the adjustment knobs. I put some paper around all of the components to help protect the remainder of the electronics from any metal debris, as well as using some lubricant to facilitate the drilling process. After cleaning up the area with a vacuum to make sure that nothing was left over, I could then begin cutting the cork material to fit the build plate. To make things easier, I cut the corners out to make sure I had enough room for the spring and silicone columns. I placed the build plate on top of the cork to figure out where I should cut these portions from. Additionally, I created holes in a couple of the layers where the bolts could fit through. To figure out the location of the bolts, I simply pressed the cork downwards to indent them on the surface and use that as a cutting reference. Corkboard has a high temperature resistance, which is why we'll be using it for this project, and in this case I didn't want to use an option which required adhesive material since it would be more difficult to remove or make repairs in the future. In order to keep the screws from moving around, I decided to use some springs which I cut down into spring lock washers. The nice thing about using springs is that these have a very small footprint and shouldn't cause the screw to stick out afterwards. Placing the cork sheets into place, we can then line them up to the heated plate, followed by our spring lock washers and screws. If you're using silicone columns, the indented portion is supposed to be on top. It's very important that you screw the leveling nuts so that the Z end stop can trigger, otherwise the hot end will crash into the build plate. The way this sensor works is that it waits for the end stop to trigger before turning on. When you manually level the bed, you're going to go to Settings, Level, and wait for the machine to finish probing the center of the bed. After, you'll adjust the offset so that it's close but not touching the build plate by selecting each corner until they're all the same. Now for some reason I had to adjust the Z offset a second time, but I had no issues with the overall leveling of the machine. Something very important with this mod is that the screen is set too high up and therefore the build plate tends to crash and lift above it when it passes too far forwards. You'll want to 3D print this part so you can mount it in an appropriate angle. With the modification completed, you can do a test print to see if everything is working correctly. I generally prefer to use a test similar to what you see here since it allows me to check for any printing irregularities. I hope that this upgrade has helped some of you out. As always, I will be including a link to the transcript below, or you could alternatively go to the gear icon and change the speed according to your preferences. If you want to support this channel, please feel free to check out the merch on my main website. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you guys again soon. Thank you and take care.